Welcome back to Pewdiepie. I'm Zui and I hope you enjoyed today's video. But before we get right into it, I'm obligated to remind you to click either the like or dislike button, commenting something down below, and of course sharing the video so more people can see and enjoy it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video. With a yawn, you leaned back in your chair. If you would have known that hell was basically the world of the living, you would have been a better person. And this is the basis of my situation. The demon cowering in front of you said with a quivering voice. You had to admit to yourself halfway through his explanations that you stopped listening. You yawned again and looked out of the window next to you. To this day, no one had told you who or what decided the demonic powers of a person. It seemed as though people with the most evil hiding inside of them became more powerful. But that would defeat the purpose of hell, wouldn't it? Why would someone who was powerful and chaotic evil in life become a demon strong enough to rival Satan himself? It seemed like a reward to you for sin. Your gaze now shifted around the room, while you tried to look busy, thinking. You were a deal maker, and not a weak one at that, but you knew how to keep a low profile. While others were busy manipulating the rich, famous, and powerful, you were content with stirring the rabble, which led to your wonderful mansion, protected by imps whose souls were forfeit. In other words, you lived like a queen of the damned, in your own little kingdom. Not even angels were a threat to you. You sighed. What was it again? You asked. The demon audibly gulped. I made a bad deal and I want out. Uh-huh, you answered with disinterest. Please, madam, Alastor will put me in his weird pocket dimension. I would really like to enter this hotel thing the princess is setting up and, Your ears twitched upon hearing that name. Wait, repeat that last part, you demanded. I would really like to enter this— No, you interrupted. The other part. Alastor will put me in his weird pocket dimension? You chuckled. Maybe this worm was worth your time after all. So you're offering a soul that already belongs to a different demon? For what exactly? I mean, if you manage to redeem yourself, your soul will belong to the angels. The demon whimpered. I'm a quantity over quality person, but even I am afraid if you deliver 0 qualities to me, I have to decline. You crossed your legs and grinned. Feeling your intent, the demon fell on his knees. Madam, I can play music. It must be very quiet in your halls, yes? You suppressed a chuckle. His soul was absolutely worthless. But fine, you said, and with a snip of your fingers a contract appeared in front of the demon. You know by now how it works. The demon signed the paper in his own blood before clutching the paper and leaving. You, meanwhile, just groaned and stood up and left your audience room, walking the long corridors of your mansion alone while humming a tune. That was until footsteps echoed from the other end of the hallway. The lights around you flickered, and around the corner strutted a man dressed in all red, his wide mouth stretched into a smile. You both kept approaching each other until he stopped right in front of you. He bowed and introduced himself. The name's Alastor. Pleasure to be meeting you, sweetheart. Quite a pleasure. He raised his head and looked down at you. Please excuse the sudden interruption, but I just had to meet the demon who stole my property as soon as possible. You crossed your arms and grinned. Oh, I wasn't aware I stole from you, Mr. Alastor. He laughed dramatically and put his right hand on his chest. Don't lie to me, darling. It doesn't suit you. You answered with a dry chuckle. If it's business you want to talk, we can do that in my study, with some tea. He raised an eyebrow. You weren't afraid of him. And that was new to him. Like Alastor was careful with his emotions and any dealings going on in hell, he considered himself above that. Yet this curiosity in you was awakened. Very well then, my darling, I shall follow you to your study. After all, a deal is a deal. He clapped into his hands twice, and you took a step forward. You could feel the intense air around you. It was as if the world was about to come to life and swallow you whole. A coldness was radiating off of the man that would freeze your heart if you had one. Well, maybe that is why you were able to stay in his presence. Finally, you arrived at the door to your study. With an elegant bow, Alastor offered to open the door for you. I insist, my dear. You chuckled. I'm not going to be invited into my own study, Mr. Alastor. With a quick whip of your hand, you swiped away his before opening the door. Your study was the second largest room in your mansion, over 4 floors, stretched vast with bookshelves, desks covered in even more books and papers, and one large fireplace at the opposite end of the room. Next to it were 2 large sofa chairs. You offered one to your guest, and with a gracious thanks, he sat down opposite to you, his red eyes burrowing into you. Well, as I said, I'm here to reclaim my property, the soul of the lowly demon you just mere minutes ago made a deal with. Ignoring him, you grabbed a small golden bell that was standing on the coffee table that separated you with Alastor. Upon ringing, a tiny imp jumped out of the lit fireplace. Yes, madam, shouted the small creature. Please bring me and my honorable guest some tea and biscuits, please. Yes, madam, sputtered the creature before running off. Now, Mr. Alastor, we were here to discuss business, if I'm not mistaken. The demon leaned forward. It is simple, my dear. You broke my contract. You raised a finger. I beg your pardon, sir, but I believe you wanted riches delivered to you by the worm. I delivered these riches. It was a fair trade. Obviously, Alastor didn't care for the riches. He put these get-out-of-jail-free cards like these into his deals simply to watch the worthless creatures scramble about for his own amusement. An amusement you now had taken away from him. But how come that this little incident is making you so upset that you barge into my humble abode? Humble abode was an understatement, thought the demon. He couldn't help but feel disgust at your open show of utter decadence. A deal is a deal, no matter how worthless the soul is, and I always collect my due. The small creature returned, carrying on its back a silver tablet with 2 crystal glasses and a golden teapot. Silently, the tablet was placed down, and the little demon began pouring the hot liquid into the cups. How much sugar, my lady? 2 cubes should be enough, you answered. While opening the lid of a small tin box filled with sugar cubes, the demon switched his attention to Alastor. And you, sir?
None at all.
After the tea was prepared, the little creature crawled back into the fireplace. There simply is no do, Mr. Alastor. You feel your pride merely hurt, he finally said after taking a sip of the hot liquid. And next time you should make it harder for other demons to snatch away your contracts. Then again, you smiled. You knew how worthless this creature is. I assume there was an ulterior motive behind this deal. Alastor chuckled. It had become a rarity someone defied him like this. But he respected that. In fact, he found it very entertaining. And he knew how childish he probably appeared to you right now. However, this had been a very boring evening for him. After he allowed himself a sip of his own cup, he started.
You must be reading me like a book, darling. Why do you even have to talk?
You really wanted to act smug right now, and Alastor could tell.
To tell you the truth, I mostly just wanted to see the demon who dared to defy me, and I didn't realize that it was such a gentle creature meddling with my affairs.
Oh, you flatter me. How does such a lowly deal-maker like me earn the respect of the likes of you? He shook his head.
Oh, it isn't respect, my dear. I just find you very entertaining.
He put one hand under his chin.
That someone as little and disgustingly worthless as you goes against an overlord like me is both an insult yet fascinating. I really should spend more time with the riffraff, shouldn't I?
You scratched your chin. I think now I remember you, dear Alastor. Aren't you that relic of the past? The radio demon? I thought you were too busy playing hotel manager. A very threatening crackling came from Alastor. Had you hit a nerve? Oh, and what nerve you hit! But not the one you both were expecting this evening. Right now, it wasn't love he felt. No, he wasn't capable of that. But certainly infatuation. And that was dangerous in your business. Made both people and demons weaker. However, despite his better judgment and lack thereof, he decided to go for the more exciting route to take here.
Fine, darling. I will look the other way for now, my dear, but only because you kept my interest for this long.
He looked you straight in the eyes before tilting his head. He leaned over the coffee table, grabbing your chin, forcing you to look at his face.
The first one is for free. Do it again, and I have your head on a golden platter.
You took this threat serious. Alastor licked his lips.
Well now, my dear, I must be off.
He stood up and turned around. Sure, Alastor wasn't attracted to anyone really, but he did enjoy playing with people. Especially the ones that were attracted to him. To someone like the radio demon, sex wasn't something he did out of enjoyment. It was a weapon, born out of pure calculation. And he could tell he successfully wrapped you around his finger.
I'll be watching your progress with great expectations, darling. Don't disappoint me.
And with that he vanished in a puff of black smoke. You meanwhile groaned heavily and fell back into your sofa, your muscles finally relaxing. You felt a bead of sweat run down your forehead. However, the feeling wasn't fear that made itself known to you. You blushed, glad Alastor wasn't here to see it. And with a perplexed tone, you simply said out loud, "Why am I horny all of a sudden?"